Okay, Derek.
Are we live?
We are live, Derek.
Okay, we're live at 7.
So Derek, let's start from where it all began. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Glasgow. I'm originally from Ayr, but we came up here when I was 10 or 11. And so secondary school, Glasgow. So yeah, west of Scotland.
And what about your childhood? Just an average childhood, or?
It was very lucky. You live in a place like Dunfoot, you know. Certainly back then, you go run around the beach. You come home at dusk, no helicopter parenting.
Just a carefree childhood.
Yeah, I think we were really lucky. And then I think the timing of coming to Glasgow, as you start to become a teenager, it was really good. Because when you become a teenager, you're not really aware of it, but things are a bit more stimulating when you live in a city. And I went to school right here in town, round the corner. Sure. So I would come in on the train, occasionally my big brother, but usually myself, which would take 10 minutes. But it was like, you get on a train, you go into town, you go to Central, and all the 4 p.m. in Central. I don't really see this anymore when I'm occasionally in Central at 4 p.m, but back then it was just full of school kids. Yeah. Just like everyone would go there. So people come in from the south side. I guess the internet's ended that, but that's how we used to date. Yeah. You'd chat someone up there, you'd see someone from another school, and then maybe you'd see them at the remember, I don't know if you know this, remember Unders discos?
I do remember that, yeah.
Like Fury's Unders. Mm-hmm. So it was brilliant. They come in, we'd pay a few quid, sell a few cokes, they make 400 or 500 quid, then chuck us out, and then the adults would come in later, and it's all very innocent, but nice. I get no problems with it. I don't have any childhood scars about dad, bollocks.
And why did your parents move to Glasgow? Was it for work?
My dad had a turntable company in Maybole, which is an extension of a lot of time they spent in America. And it was just fine commuting up and down. It was just easier for them to be in Glasgow. My big brother was coming up for school. My sister was in school. She was boarding actually because she was a musician. She was at Douglas Academy. It just made more sense. So we moved from Ayr, Dunfoot, to the south side. So and again part of that was schools as well. Just for whatever reason, there was a few reasons in it. True. They never really told us. It's just we're moving to Glasgow. Fine.
And what high school was it you went to?
St Aloysius.
St Aloysius. And how was St Aloysius?
In retrospect, it was all right.
All right.
Yeah.
In retrospect, was it not quite so good at the time?
Oh, just like here's a bit of perspective. I'm on the children's panel, and I'm doing my training. This is like 5 years ago, and they surveyed the room and they said, "How many of you think you come from what you consider a good home?" So majority of us all, yeah. And then, how many remember being a teenager? No rooms like that. It goes in. So imagine being a teenager and being in a difficult household, like difficult by some of the stuff I see in the children's panel. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of perspective. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like when you're a teenager, everything sucks. Yeah. It's just like when I wouldn't say everything sucks, but there's just always some drama for no reason. And then when you start thinking about it, it goes like, why did that person do that, or why did I do that? It was just stupid. Yeah. But nothing mad. No, I'm sorry. I thought I had a normal childhood, but I remember a friend of mine in New York said to me, you didn't come from a normal family or a normal childhood. It's quite unusual. Yeah. Didn't grow up with any parental bitterness or anything like that. My big brother and I have had a few struggles, but we're beyond that now. That's a long story. You could do a series on it. Oh. But that aside, no, things are cool.
Tell me about your brother. Does he stay local?
Both my brothers in America.
Both of them. And if you don't mind asking, what do they do for a living?
Well, my wee brother's a designer, and my big brother's in the kind of art event production business. I think my wee brother's going to come back though. I think he and his wife have had enough. Either this season or probably next year. We're talking about all sorts of things now. Why don't we get a place in the Trossachs and blah blah blah. We're going for Italian citizenship, Brexit lifeboats. My big brother, he thinks New York's just a giant Glasgow. You know.
And what do you think? Have you been yourself?
Yeah, I spent 17 years there.
17 years? Yeah. And what did you do in New York?
Media production. Most of the time, not all of it. I'd started it here in London, and then needed a job when I got there, so I worked for STA Travel. But yeah, I was in media production for most of that, which is TV, movies, commercials, mostly commercials, or as I call it, aspirational pornography. But it's interesting because you're working on a commercial, you know, there's kind of three, there's coordinating, managing and then producing. And coordinating, you're making $450 a day. Yeah. And, you know, you're signing time cards for like 12 grand for a cameraman who's got an Oscar. You know, so that side of it's quite good because you get, I reckon I've got behind the camera professionals, directors, editors, designers. I reckon I worked with 70 Oscar winners at some level through my career.
And did you have?
That's just winners alone. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Did you have quite a lot of interaction one-on-one with these people?
It depended. But yes, usually of some kind. Because even if you're PA, you're on set, you're talking to the cameraman. Yeah, you know, but not always decision making. So, for example, I worked with Ridley Scott a few times, but you know, it wasn't like, right, Ridley, what do you need now? It was just like, yes, sir. You know, the first time I worked with him was here in Scotland. You know, but just you're in that world, you cross paths with a lot of people, but it doesn't mean you're always in charge. Sometimes you're in charge, and that can be good fun. You know, it was interesting, let's put it that way.
So 17 years, it's quite a length of time. How did it all come to an end?
A few reasons. I had a health scare, still managed to continue for several years. Just, things were changing. I think after the financial crisis, New York stopped being fun. We managed to get through 9/11, although things were a wee bit different after 9/11. Like, let's think about this. 4 or 5 months before 9/11, I'm at an event and Bill Clinton walks in. You know, of course he's got security, but it's not like we were getting checked out again. So things changed, but the root of what happened to New York and everywhere else is the financial austerity of some kind. They didn't have a policy like that in America, but the long and short of it is that you just get tired of just like every conversation is about rent. No, you're not initiating it, just rent, property, how much things cost, blah blah blah. It just got exhausting, and work-wise, I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't getting the jobs I was getting before, and I was just like, and other reasons, for example, you know, privacy. You have healthcare in America, they can look it up. They have GDPR over there, and I just decided. I didn't immediately leave. I was jumping back and forth. My mum was getting on a bit, so I was spending more time here. And it got to a point where I was just commuting back to do a shoot. I was just like, you know what, let's just get out of the apartment. Done. So I just kind of graduated into it, and it was hard, but it was a good thing. I'll give you an example. Being in America, Being in New York City during COVID? No. I was up the hill there, Spears Wharf, private street, sunshine. Private street means you can sit outside with your neighbours, no one will bother you. Canals there, riding the bike every day. Working from home, not taking a penny from the state, doing a degree. You know, I'm just like, you know, what have I got to complain about? I'm in reasonable health, you know, pretty good health for someone who's just turned 50 or was in late 40s. So, yeah, it was just different. It was a holiday from... this is the thing I don't miss. Like, people say, do you miss it? Well, of course I miss it, but the thing is, I miss something that doesn't exist anymore. Because I do not miss the entitlement and the anger. The angry self-entitlement. And, I mean, it's exhausting talking to people. Even my siblings. We can talk about anything, brilliant. Talk about Celtic, everything's good. Talk about movies, blah, blah, blah. Politics. I'm like, guys, do you want democracy or not democracy? That's your choice next November. Okay. Sorry, I know the guy's 81, but, you know, the adults working for him are pretty smart. I know it's not great. I know there's, Christ, you know, we could get into it. Well, let's not go there. But, you know, the Gaza-Palestinian thing, but it's just like, look, you don't like it. This is a symptom of where we are. Lack of engagement. Leave it to someone else. You know, we've kind of evolved into this. And when you have a sort of tax and you have a system that rewards wealth instead of effort, this is a problem in all of the Western world, the so-called stable Western world. We've got to rethink it. So, but I have come for my mental health. I've come to the point where I'm not going to let, I'm quoting Aaron Sorkin here, I'm not going to let someone else's debilitating inferiority complex, you know, I've decided it's not my problem. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to let this stuff get to me. I don't have to run to the TV every time something happens. I have the radio. I like the World Service. I woke up yesterday, I found out Henry Kissinger had died. I was like, oh, it's going to be a good day. You know, what I'm saying is that I like the World Service because it's aimed at a global audience where people's language is not, their first language is not English. So compare the World Service at 6:30 in the morning to Radio 4. So I remember I moved back here, I was like, oh, Radio 4 would be brilliant. You know, it's so smart. And it was just like Brexit NHS. I was like, oh, fuck, don't listen to that at 6, 7 in the morning. The reason I say this is, so therefore the tone of the World Service, till about 8:30 when Sacher comes on with Hard Talk, and usually someone defending Israel's position in Gaza, or Russia's position in Ukraine. It's like, all right, here we go, flat earthism, off, you know, and it turns into this spat. But the point I'm saying is the tone is slower and more peaceful. Therefore, you can absorb the information, and you're listening, which is good for your skill set, as opposed to sitting there on rolling news, you know, CNN culture, for example, or, you know, I don't know why I'm going round in tangents here. The point I'm saying is, if you're interested in these things, let the story land, sit back for a wee bit, let it settle, and then go and listen to trusted sources or read trusted sources, and then engage with it. And also, don't feel you have to have an opinion on everything. Yeah. Everyone's a know all know nothing these days. It's just like, I'm sorry, I'm not very clued up on this specific subject. Please enlighten me. That might be half of what to tell me. I don't like what this person is saying. Just shut up and listen. You know, we've lost the ability to communicate. I was in a pub once in New York, and a guy fell over, and I was maybe 40 feet away, and I know someone who's paraplegic. diving in a pool. He was going to drown, his friends lifting him out. Long and short, it wasn't handled properly. I saw this guy, he hit the bottom of his spine off the back of a chair, and he went like this. And literally I'm like, don't fucking touch him. And what I mean by that is, I could see that he might have had a fracture in his spine. And I just like, and meanwhile, people with me are like, what's going on here? And they're like, she's starting a fight. And a fight nearly broke out. Whoops, I think a fight nearly broke out because there was a lot of people that didn't understand what was going on. And what I understood was this guy can't be touched. I turned to you, go to the doorman, tell him to get an ambulance right now and tell me he might have someone with a spinal fracture. Sure enough, the guy had a spinal fracture. And he walks because basically his friends didn't try to help him. So there's the whole thing. Whose vanity are you servicing? All right, I need to help someone. I feel better because I'm trying to help. He goes, well, you're not. You just created a paraplegic. My sister said something really interesting to me 22 years ago. And the day after 9/11, you know, we had really poor phone service in New York because right next to the World Trade Center site was the Manhattan Phone Exchange for AT&T. But anyway, we get through to my sister, or she gets through to me, and you know, how are you? You know, blah blah blah. And she recalled the fable of the because both of them, I said to her, you know, I'm really not surprised at what I've seen here. Of course, years later, Adam Curtis has approached 9/11 from several of his documentaries, including just the idea that the perpetrators, like, got their idea from like Godzilla and Deep Impact, and what was that one Michael Bay made with Bruce Willis, Armageddon, you know. So they're just like, yeah, we're gonna, you know, because, you know, it's like we've seen enough movies where this happens. Surely someone's going to try it. But a joke aside, you shouldn't joke about something like that. But she mentioned the fable of the Tower of Babel, and it's kind of right. I just kind of think ever since that happened, you know, it's like this. Of course, right around the time the internet's taken off, and but yeah, it's you know, the same side of it is I had lots of wonderful experiences there. I mean, I've done things, I've seen things, and just by being there, I've been other places, you know. So I don't regret it.
And you touched upon 9/11 a couple of times. Were you present
Yes.
in New York on the day?
Mm-hmm.
And how close were you?
I was in the West Village, Father Demo Square. I was working for ST Travel at the time. So, and I was part-time interning at PBS, which is public TV. So even though I had a CV in London, it was like, look, you can go freelance, and you can take your luck, or it's like, I need to. So I was kind of working my way, and then I got a real job in a place for a couple of years. So I was full-time in post-production, but I was like kind of like at that kind of, right, I've got the apartment now, I'm here, I've been here a year and a half. Was just kind of back into that. It was good it was there because my service was I could do ticket exchange, and all our managers were stranded in California, so that's how I helped. I had friends that were. I spent some time that night at Chelsea Piers just helping register people who were basically couldn't get in their house, and some of us were asked to go down there, and they were like to help support the firefighters, like, but. And my cousin got involved in that, and I was like, I've got a place to be. Unlike a lot of people, I actually have a job that is going to be needed, you know, when we can open the airports. But yeah, it was interesting. I saw the first plane hit, and it was interesting. Let's put it that way. It was mad. It was a beautiful day. It was gorgeous. I remember the pigeons went nuts, but I knew right away it was the real deal because I saw it was American Airlines jet. And when I called 911, there's a great book by Wayne Barrett called Grand Illusion. I'm praying someone's going to make the miniseries out of this. It's about Giuliani and what a fraud he was. But there's a whole section on the day, and the number of problems that are a result of his lousy administration. So, for example, they should have known we were paying a cell phone tax, and that money was for a computerised. So the idea is like, okay, I'm caller one, right? I'm in 70th floor of building, stairwell B's not working, the door's jammed, okay, send people to stairwell A or something like that. Or I just walk down 3 floors are missing, okay, good. So people are phoning in, don't go that way, go this way. They had no information. They had nowhere to put it, because all that money was used for new Yankee Stadium and stuff like that. So it's a long story, but the long and short of it is that the only mistake I made was I thought it was a 777, it was 767. But it was quite incredible how little information was getting to. Didn't vote for him, but the guy sitting down in the school in Florida reading to the kiddies. So, but yeah, a real wasted opportunity. The goodwill that came from that, the opportunity was squandered, wasted on the Iraq thing. Afghanistan, debatable, but definitely on Iraq. And here's the thing, even with all the lying and the invasion, right, they still could have pulled it off. Except the de-Baathification was a catastrophe. So literally once they got there, through false pretense, there was still goodwill there.
You touched upon the fact that you've met some presidents in your time. Is it 4 US presidents?
Met 4, seen a few others. Never got to meet Obama so far. He is my guy. I did see him give a speech once at Cooper Union, and he would come to town a lot. I remember one time I was on the Brooklyn Bridge, one UN week, on my bike. No, actually, I was on the Manhattan. And that's quite a statement. The president comes to town. No messing around, man. You see the movies, is because they can't afford 14 helicopters for the budget. It's an armada. It's quite impressive. But no, I like that guy. You kind of knew there was an adult in the room when he was in charge. In fairness, Biden just doesn't have the charisma, but Biden's a good guy. He's from a school, but he is what he is. Met Gerald Ford when I was a kid. Didn't really know who he was. It was only later, but my dad didn't like Nixon, and my dad always thought that Ford let Nixon off easy, and he probably did, but his reasons for why he did it were interesting, and now the Republicans are trying to use that to give Trump a pass, but no, this is different. At least Nixon admitted to wrongdoing. People forget that he did admit to it. But Clinton. No, I met Carter at a book signing, and I met Clinton a few times, including at the Steve Madden IPO party, which I had no business being at, but that was pre 9/11 when things like that happened. It was only after seeing The Wolf of Wall Street that I joined some dots, but he came in and basically did a 5-minute. He just walked in the room. Clinton had this great thing. He would, in summer 2000, he just kept popping up everywhere in New York. So he'd show up at the Cirque and the Rainbow Room, and there'd be someone rich there, and he'd usually just crash their dinner or their party, talk to whoever he wanted to talk to for 5 minutes and leave, and then that person would brag about how much money they donate to the Clinton Foundation. So that was the days. Yeah, and I met Trump a couple of times. Did a McDonald's ad in his office when they were the Yankees. He had a bit of a crush on my friend, who was my production manager. I was coordinator, and a friend was also from Scotland. So my mum's from Scotland, blah, blah, blah. But no, just met him another time as well at an event. quite interesting keeping him at the ladies' dressing room, let's put it that way, but just not a nice guy, period. I mean, he's a joke in New York, he always was. But that TV show, man, is just like, people want to believe what they want to believe. They didn't shoot it at Trump Tower. They shot it at the same, I believe it was the same stage where they made The Wolf of Wall Street, which is gone now. It was down in the middle of Brooklyn. It was where they used to make The Cosby Show. I could be wrong about this, because I think they moved it to Silver Cup, because then he could just jump over the bridge. So remember the movie Highlander? Silver Cup Bakery, so that's right by the Midtown Bridge, but it's now a studio. So I think they moved it to Silver Cup. I don't know. I didn't work in stuff like that, because reality TV is just like, well, it's cheap. That's why they make so much of it. Like, do you know how much it costs to make The Sopranos, or Band of Brothers, or The Wire? You have to hire writers, and you have to really smart people. And reality TV, it's just, get a bunch of suckers. There's your talent costs free. You know. But anyway, that apparently, I've never watched an episode of that. Apparently they have a British one as well with another fake businessman that failed at everything he did, Alan Sugar. Failed at Spurs. Well, everyone fails at Spurs except Postecoglou. Remember that thing he made, the little white scooter thing, the future of transport, where the handlebars were here. It's called the C5. It's like, who thought that was a good idea? But anyway, not a good job. Hard job. But I heard Fran Lebowitz talking to... Everyone should look up Fran Lebowitz. Fran Lebowitz is the smartest woman in the world. Smartest person in the world. Scorsese's made 2 documentaries with her. One's called Pretend It's the City. Fran Lebowitz is brilliant. And she said that being mayor in New York's the second hardest job in America. I completely agree with her, because it's hard. It's a really hard city to run. Yeah, Trump, I don't know what to tell you. We could be here all night. It's just like, it's like the JFK conspiracy. It's the story that won't go away. You know, it's like, just go away. Just go away. Just die. You know, it's like, where's James Bond? Die, Blofeld, die. But, yeah, not a nice man. But, look, it's the 20s. Things are nuts. But I genuinely think we'll get through it. It's just at what cost in terms of people who usually the least powerful. They'll be the ones that pay the most price.
And tell me, Derek, have you ever thought about going into politics?
I think if I was to be involved in strategy or finding candidates, with the Democrats abroad, I work with a lot of young people. That's all voluntary. Just, get people shot for the vote. And doing some interesting stuff just now where we're getting more of the American students coming over, getting them more engaged, making sure they're voting the right way. Sometimes you do it as a absentee ballot, and sometimes you're here for a period, so you set up to vote here. I'm convinced the SNP are going to get wiped out, and everyone's getting wiped out, potentially at the next general, which means Labour are in, which I think is a blessing for Scotland. Not that I'm super pro-Labour, but because I think if we're going to have a run at independence, and let's debate whether we want it or not, that's separate. But if you're going to do it right. Have a plan. They don't have a plan. They didn't have a plan last time, and they said, before Brexit, we'll just figure it out in the back end. And I taught some really smart people who were completely blinkered in this issue. So first thing, let's have a constitution. Let's talk about what we want to be. Because, The Economist, a good friend of mine, a wonderful friend of mine, he and I can sit down. I love it. This is what a good friend you can do. We have great debates about China. Like, he thinks he's going to run the world. I don't know. But he's wonderful. I mean, they get quite heated, but we can respectfully have serious discussions. And for a while, he's been independent skeptic. No, we're screwed. Too dependent on the civil service, blah, blah, blah. And I just said to him, you're right, in our current form. But potentially, any kind of approach to independence would have to be, let's have a plan and let's build towards it. And part of that is, what kind of country we want to be. Do we want to be a nation of rentiers, or do we want to reward effort? Structurally, constitutionally, we need a written constitution. And I'm afraid that means having a debate about the Republic. Oh, no, we don't have to. We'll just keep this. Personally, what I would do is take Elizabeth II's corpse and beat the Conservatives to death with it. She had, I reckon, 4 or 5 occasions after Brexit where she would have completely moved within her rights to dissolve Parliament. As did King Charles 15 minutes into the job. He's, oh dear, Liz Truss comes, oh dear. Right, point I'm saying is that certain interpretations of the Constitution, the King would have been in his rights to dissolve when Truss resigned. Problem is, it's not codified. So I always like to joke, how many presidents did Angela Merkel have during her chancellorship? Because trust me, you'll have to look it up, and you'll have to look up their names. I can't even tell you who the current president of Germany is. I know what the president of Germany does. It's a check and balance mechanism. The holder of the office can do certain things. The holder of the office is a special unit of the DNB, the security services, and the Chancellor doesn't know about for certain situations and certain measures. It's there as a check and balance. We need to have that conversation. And the conversation needs to be, we need to become a republic, so we have a constitution that's fit for the third millennium. If you frame it like that, you'll win by a landslide. If you speak ill of Elizabeth II or the King, you'll lose. And this is what I'm trying to tell people. Put your issues, your opinion of the royal family aside. Personally, I could do without them. But what I'm saying is, I can also say good things about Elizabeth II, and this is a Jesuit-educated, West of Scotland, Celtic-supporting cultural Catholic speaking. I say a lot of great things about Elizabeth II. She's got a job she didn't want, she did it well. I'm just saying it's not a job that's fit for purpose. If you make that the argument, you will very quickly win people over. I would even argue for some kind of honorary citizenship, some special thing for Balmoral or something like that. Honour the history, the legacy. Whether you like it or not, you show respect for it. But what I'm saying is that's the debate we'll have to have. And going around saying things that upset a certain demographic of our population or group of our population is not going to achieve anything. Talk about why a republic would be a good idea. Talk about fitness of purpose. That way you can get what you want, but show respect for the people that do it, even if you think they're idiots, which according to the crowd they are, but apparently that's all made up too. You see my point? We have to have a structured system. We also have to talk about who our friends are going to be. And I'm afraid we're staying in NATO and we're rejoining the EU. That has to be a done deal. But maybe we have a conversation about what NATO is moving forward. Maybe finally we need to have a discussion about having a European defence budget, force. But then what's the mechanism to use that? 20 plus countries. But we need to think about it, because we'd save a lot of money on defence spending and spend it better. And probably be more effective if we had something like that. That way we have a deterrent that costs a lot less, and we can spend on other things like schools and rewarding effort instead of rewarding capital. But the good news is all these problems can be solved. This has got to be a will. So yeah, maybe I might do something political, but I think I'd be more involved in shaping something. I think in the case of Scotland, the opportunity to do that will come after the next general. Because there'll be nothing left of the SNP. The first thing they should do is rename it. We call it the Scottish International Party. You know, instead of national. As George Orwell said, there's a huge difference between a nationalist and a patriot. Patriotism's a good thing, but nationalism is different. You should read his little Penguin Pocket Classic notes on nationalism. But anyway, that's the way I see it. The good news is history's proven that when things get really bad, things get better because people have no choice. It's the same with this absolute shit show that's going on in America just now, where you've got guy really dead to rights be in prison, but there he is, the Donald. Horrible man.
And what do you think his prospects are in terms of re-election?
Well, as we've discussed off camera, I have met 4 American presidents, and certainly the misfortune to meet him a couple of times. Just if I'd known what I'd known, I would have just kicked him out the window. You know, it's just although, honestly, Americans are lunatics at the moment. I mean, the country's just gone batshit crazy. The one upside is if he gets re-elected, see stuff I'm talking about reforming Europe, and come on, let's think about what we want to be. I'm talking about Scotland, maybe European. Well, how do we fix democracy? Well, let's start rewarding the things that matter. You know, let's start showing that maybe someone that for some physical reason can't contribute this way, maybe they can contribute their experience. There's just so many things we can do with this. So maybe one of the things that will happen is America will end as a democracy. Europe will get its act together, like truly unify on a scale we haven't seen. I think it's inevitable anyway. And that's just, look, I mean, this is, you know, someone with American citizenship, birthright American citizenship, how do I explain it? America's purpose is to expand it. This is something people don't understand. When the president takes the oath of office, I've had so many Americans this question, they can't answer it. Okay, what is the number one responsibility of the President of the United States? It's to protect and defend the Union. I'm quoting this. I saw Bill Clinton give this speech once, which is on YouTube. I was there. And he babbles on for 10 minutes. Then he gets into the meat of it and then babbles on for 10 minutes. And I was just like, it was a come to Jesus moment. It's to protect and defend the Union. And the Union is not a Starbucks in Hanoi and a Kentucky Fried in Dubai. The Union is an amendable constitution. So America's purpose is to become redundant. And that's when America will end, because it won't be needed anymore. I met Sarah Palin once when she was still a mayor. She was rooming with my cousin's wife, who was at the 2004 Republican convention, and I said to her and a couple of other delegates, I said, stop interfering with Star Trek. Stop slowing things down. You're slowing down our inevitability to get to Star Trek. And what I meant by that was, it was like, look, you know, in some form, really, that's where we're going to end up if we don't kill each other with nuclear weapons. Because it's inevitable. But at the same time, you got to have that fairness. But the guy's dead to rights. Just the question is, I mean, I don't even think the Supreme Court will help him. But the question is, how long can he stay on appeal? Because if he gets elected and goes back in the White House, those cases are gone. Look what he did the Miller investigation. But he's not messing around. He's told people what he's going to do. I mean, he gave a speech in Veterans Day recently where he was quoting from the fields of Nuremberg. You know, I was like, hello? Recognize anyone? I mean, it was just like, I said, it's just Trump, you know. I said, okay, no problem, you know. Any other point, he is astonishing, his capacity for just like, what is he going to get away with now? But it's exhausting. And it was One of the problems we're noticing just now with Democrats abroad is we've, certainly in our Scotland contingent, we've got the older demographic. We don't have to, they're not participating as many virtual or face-to-face events, but it's okay because we've got them, they're showing up. It's the kids, it's the under 30s, because we need them. But all in all, you know, you're asking me how long's a piece of string. I mean, I was in the, he's never going to win against Hillary. I was drinking the Kool-Aid like everyone else. I was just sitting there in a state of shock, going, what just happened? But, I mean, America survived it. But maybe we need another 4 years of that guy for America to learn its lesson. But it's not a good thing. It's just not a good thing. But maybe it's a necessary thing. Like, you know, getting the flu gets all the stuff out of your systems. That's probably a bad one because poor people have COVID and some people can't handle that. But you know what I mean. Having a cold's good. It means bad stuff's coming out. Don't interfere with it. Drink some chicken soup and get into bed. Good old Jewish penicillin. You know, I don't know what to say except, yeah, it's concerning. But at the same time, I think when people start to focus in on it, probably by the back end of, you know, spring, and it is going to be him against Biden again. It's like, you're old, he's old, you're crazy, he's a bit tired. But here's the difference, right? Biden passes out of the wheel. First you get Kamala Harris there. I know she's not very popular. But I know a lot about the people that have been in the Democratic establishment for many years. And whether you agree with them or not, they're serious people, they're serious professionals, and they don't want to start a nuclear war.